Hello, hello. We are live. Happy Sunday, everybody. I will allow people to come in and start asking questions. So welcome. If you are watching this video in a recorded format, welcome. Welcome to everybody who are signing in for this live Q&A this morning. This morning, I will be answering any questions you might have about the PhD application process. We are already in October, and so you guys are probably at the height of the beginning, at least, of the work that you're going to be putting in on your PhD applications. It is really the right time for you guys to start working on your application. If you have not started working on your statement of purpose and your resume or CV or letters of recommendations, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but you might be a little late. And so it is very important, if you haven't done so, to start working on your application. And so today I'll be answering the questions that you have about the application process. So feel free to start asking away. I will be here for the next 30 minutes to answer any questions you might have about the application process. As I've said, for many people, applying to PhD programs can be a very overwhelming process. And so it is really important to start working on your application very early on. Based on my experience working with people over the last few years on PhD applications, people get surprised about the amount of time and the amount of effort that it takes to come up with outstanding application. Especially the statement of purpose, I think, is probably the part of the piece of the application that induces the more stress and that requires the more work. And so if you have any questions about your statement of purpose, feel free to ask them. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have. Yes, so the first question is, when should I start working on my letters of recommendation? In my opinion, it is time right now to start working on your letters of recommendation. So if you haven't contacted a professor previously, it is time for you to start sending these emails to make sure that your professor is aware of your intention of applying to PhD programs this year. It is really the best time right now to notify them first, to get a commitment on their end. Will they be writing their letter of recommendation right away? Probably not. They do, unfortunately, often start working on their applications a little later in the process, sometimes a bit too late. But I think this is the best time to start selecting your professors and starting sending requests via email to make sure that they will make some time on their schedule to write the letter of recommendation. Usually, yeah, I get a lot of questions about, how to proceed. You can do it via email. You can feel very comfortable doing this and just shooting an email to professors that you want to write a letter of recommendation for you. If you have, it would be great to submit at least a CV or a resume with your application to make sure that they have an idea of who you are and what you have done, et cetera, and to also offer them the opportunity to at least ask them if you can provide them with more information to make the letter writing process as easy as possible. Okay, so I have a question here from Miss. Some programs want to know other schools that I'm applying to. Is it a good idea to disclose that information? How should that question be handled? I would definitely, I mean, they do gather a lot of information and a lot of data on people who apply to programs in general. And so it's a fairly common process for them to ask if you were applying to other schools. I don't think that there's anything to be ashamed of or that you should hide your approach. I mean, to speak frankly between you and me, most people apply to from 5 to 10 different schools. If you have a very competitive profile as well, it's a good way to make them aware that you are also considering other schools. In no way, shape, or form would that have an immediate impact on admissions outcomes. This will not influence necessarily their decision because you're considering another program. So I would be frank with them and let them know about the number of programs that you're applying to, and be very transparent, knowing that in a lot of cases, they might go back to this information when they consider funding, et cetera, et cetera. But most of it, a lot of this data is usually collected from a marketing perspective, I would say, and for people to kind of get an idea if their program is competitive and who are the applicants in their program. So I would not worry too much about this, and I would just, let them know about your project. So Franklin here, I am almost done with my PhD applications, except for letters of recommendations, but not sure of the benefit of submitting too early. Any thoughts of what's your opinion on this? So you are, you're talking specifically about sending your PhD applications early or sending your request for letters of recommendations too early? I'll answer both. So for PhD applications, if you have a deadline, it's pointless for you to submit your application before the deadline. A lot of people think, yeah, if I send it now, what do I have more chances of getting admitted? Will I make a stronger impression on admissions committees? In my opinion, no, it doesn't change anything. They do basically will look at all the applicants once the deadline has passed, and they really want to make a decision based on who's applying this year, what are they willing to work on, et cetera, et cetera. And they make the decisions while having like the broad pool of applicants. So it's not, yeah. So you were referring about the application. Yeah, it's pointless. You can send it, I mean, December 1st, if it's December 1st, and you were to apply on that day at midnight, which is usually the time that is given, you would not be penalized compared to someone who sent it earlier. So I would feel comfortable a few days before, or even a week before is probably the most comfortable time to send your applications. Speaking of deadlines and being late, I often get questions about that, especially in the context of letters of recommendation. So it's really important to keep in mind that, we all make, and I've been there on my end when I was doing my PhD, and I was unfortunately in that situation often when I had a ton of letters of recommendations to write for PhD students who were for students who were applying to PhDs. Sometimes the letters of recommendations are sent a little later than the deadline. If that would be the case for you, I would not worry too much. As long as you keep in touch with your recommenders throughout the application process, and that you've taken all the steps to make sure that they know about the deadline, et cetera, et cetera. If they were to receive the letter of recommendation a little later, so past December 1st in your case, it would not necessarily be something that you'd be penalized for or punished for. They do understand that recommenders, there's so much that one can do as an applicant, and you're not there to press send on the day of. All you can do is, suggest and remind them. So I wouldn't panic. For any of you guys who are having a lot of anxiety about getting the letter of recommendation sent on the right day, it is not necessarily something to be too afraid about. Any other questions about the PhD application process? Unless, I mean, I'm talking about the PhD applications and deadlines in general to go to kind of complete that. Some program, though, some program have a rolling admission, and so they will accept people throughout the admissions process. If that is the case, and that's clearly stated on the website, then I would definitely apply when my application is ready. I would not rush it. The deadline is the deadline. But if you have the ability to get an answer earlier because they have rolling admissions, it happens sometimes in the UK, for example. Then I would send the application when it's ready. But you're mentioning to me that it's December 1st, so that sounds like it's a PhD application in the US. Applications in the UK are a little later. Okay, so I have another one here. I have applied 3 times to the PhD in biomedical science program in the USA, but all got rejected despite having a very good GPA. Is it advisable to change to different major? PhD rejections, that's a big question. It happens a lot. Unfortunately, not everyone gets accepted the first time around. There's a lot of factors at play in these types of decisions, and sometimes it's just simply not your fault. So you tell me that you have a good GPA. Obviously, right now I don't see the specific program, et cetera, but it does happen sometimes that the professor is overwhelmed with PhD students and simply they don't take any more students. There might be budget issues, and so they might not have the funding to take on any students this year. Sometimes, sometimes there's a lot of factors. Sometimes the faculty member that you're targeting is going on leave, or he has a book to finish and he needs to take time. Unfortunately, factors that can be at play that determine if you're that can get you rejected, and unfortunately, you don't have a lot of control on this. Based on my experience, the GPA is usually not going to be the real reason if you're getting in or not. In my own opinion, based on it, my experience working with people who unfortunately got rejected, most of the time, it's usually the statement of purpose. Um, Statement of purpose, it's really important to keep in mind that it's super important. I'm sure you guys all know this, but this is oftentimes the first thing that they look at. If you're applying to a PhD program that's super competitive, they get tons of applicants. They're going to be really quick. So if they take a look and they don't understand what you're working on, or you're not giving them the information that you're expecting to have, that might simply get you rejected, and they might not even consider the rest of your application. So based on my experience, it's the statement of purpose that gets you rejected, or school selection. So you might have selected a program that is not super aligned with what they're doing. There might be a discrepancy there, and that might be the reason why you did not get in. Okay, I would like to know, other question. I would like to know, what is the best way to describe my research interest in the statement of purpose? Is it okay to frame it like a research topic and mention the faculty of interest? Yeah, overall, this is the perfect approach to have. Or should you just outline the research interest and list the faculties separately? In your statement of purpose, basically, the core of your application should be about your research interest. Admissions committees are going to determine if you're in or not, if they can work with you or not, if they have room for you or not, based on what you're working on. So it's really important to outline your research interests quite clearly. That being said, there's probably 2 different approaches that you can take. And it's really a matter of where you are and how comfortable you are in presenting these ideas. Some people have like 1 or 2 ideas. They're not too sure about what they'd like to work on. There's 2 ways to kind of tackle this issue. You can present your research interest by outlining 2 possible paths that you'd like to explore. You are not, if you are applying to PhDs in the US, you are not expected to have a full-blown research proposal at the time of the application. This is something that will come much later. You'll be taking 2 years of classes, and this is when you really will kind of sit down and decide what you want to work on. In the context of applications right now, they want to get a clear idea of what you could potentially be working on, and who you could potentially be working with. They don't see that as a commitment per se, and nobody will go back to you and tell you that's what you wrote, that's what you should be doing. Most people will completely forget once you're admitted. They'll know what you're interested in, but they won't hold you to your word too rigorously. So one way that you can approach this would be to tell them about one of two things that you'd like to explore, and which faculty could be a good choice for you. That's one way to approach it. Another great way to approach it is just to commit, right? Like you might have like 3 different ideas, and you don't know which one to commit to. There's probably one that's more closer to your heart or whatever. One approach is just to focus on that one and really build this as a research outline and a research project that you'd like to investigate. You can keep it open. You don't have to commit to the detail of what would be the chapters, et cetera, of your dissertation. It doesn't have to be that granular, but one way to make a convincing case would be to commit to one and then basically just tell them what is your topic, what is your area of interest, how you would potentially approach this research, meaning it could be a theoretical approach, it could be if you have the ability to position yourself in light of the existing criticism that exists on the topic, that could be one way, a great way to tackle this. So a lot of people takes this choice and just decide on one topic. And the good thing to understand is like it's just for the time being. It is kind of an exercise. Everybody knows it. So your admission committee knows that you might change your mind. And so it's all meant to actually describe and show to them your ability to tackle problems, formulate questions, and to be on the spot, being able to justify and talk about your interest. It's a good way for them to decide if you have what you need to be successful in their program. Other question here, a PI I had a video call with. Following my cold email recommends I submit my application by the end of October, but the deadline is in January. What would be the case here? Early decision, although the program doesn't admit to the lab as it's a rotation-based program. Although the program doesn't admit to the lab. Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, following my cold email, he recommends I submit my application by the end of October. But the deadline is in January. Yeah, that's very strange. Yeah, I find that very strange in this particular case. I mean, it might, in this particular case, if you're about to commit to work in a lab, et cetera, the professor that you're contacting might be giving you insight into, when you'll start looking at potential. You'll know if there are spots available in his lab, et cetera. This is hard to tell right now because I don't necessarily know the program, the PI, and what the process is for this specific application. But if you are required to have some type of commitment from a faculty member to be able to apply to a program, and this is the guideline that he's giving you, then I would apply by late October to make sure that you have a spot there in this specific lab. Yeah, and there's 2 types of PhD programs. There's programs where, and it's really important to go on their website and see, like, am I required to have some kind of commitment from a faculty or not? If you don't, in my own humble opinion, just don't bother. I mean, it's very stressful. I'm working with someone right now who's like trying to get feedback from faculty members, but it is nowhere specified in the, on the website that he should contact professors. And so he's getting no response or non-committal response from professors, and he's letting that influence the application process. And in my opinion, that's like the worst way to approach it. Um, there's one thing to understand. If you contact professors, as I said, since the admissions process happens once the deadline has passed, a lot of faculty members, because they haven't read your letters of recommendation, because they haven't read your statement of purpose, because they haven't taken an in-depth look at how you compare to other applicants, they're really iffy about committing. And so in a lot of cases, they'll just ignore your email. And it's part of the game. It happens a lot. And so in my own humble opinion, and I'm about to produce a video in 2 weeks from now with more details about this on how to approach this. But if it is not required, this type of networking is unnecessary. And you should focus on other parts of your application, and because professors very likely won't interact with you. If it is required, then it's another ballgame. So if in your case you need to have some kind of commitment to be able to work in a lab, for example, then I would definitely take a different approach there. Other question? If any of you, if you look at the, I review statements of purpose. So if you are looking to get a quick assessment of your statement of purpose, I feel invite you to just go on I think there's a link in the description box of this video. If not, just go on my website. There is a way for you to upload your drafts. If you go to the PhD application services, and I can provide you with a quick assessment of your statement of purpose. And then if you need help with it, I'm there to help. So I can provide you with a bit of feedback on your statement of purpose, miss. So feel free to send it. Just go to the PhD application services, and there's a link for you to upload your document. I'll take a look at it and let you know, where you are, how much work would be needed, et cetera, et cetera. So feel free to send it. It's good to get feedback, people. I mean, I know on my end, I tend to, sometimes especially if you're hard at work on something, it's good to have somebody else take a look at it to just see if you're in the right direction. Okay, I have another question here. Nikink, hello, Dr. Philippe. Adding interests and hobbies in my PhD application CV necessary? Also, is having a publication a make or break in the PhD application in the US? Okay, so 2 questions here. Adding hobbies and interests in your CVs, why not? Especially if you have, I mean, a lot of people are active in ways that are outside of academia. I don't know, you might be the lead, you might be involved in a group and doing some volunteering, or you might be in a sports team and you're the captain or whatever. In my opinion, if there's a way for you to stand out from other applicants, because we all know that the spots available for PhD programs are sometimes limited, anything that can make you different from somebody else, I would add it. Especially since you're thinking about a CV for PhD applications, there's no length limit. So yeah, I would do your interest and your hobbies is a great way for admissions committees to get to know you a little better and to see what type of person you are. It's important also to once the research part is done, they're going to look at who you are. Are you somebody who's going to be engaged on campus? Are you somebody that's super social? I mean, we all know the cliche of the doctoral students. Some people can be a bit on the quieter side, and sometimes it's not the best to have them in the classroom because they don't participate. So I would add any type of information that you have to give them a sense of who you are, Nikki Inc. I think it's a great way for you to kind of tell them already who you are outside of your interest. Having a publication, okay, publication, good question. Do you need a publication to be admitted into a PhD program? The answer is no. They are not expecting you to have published anything. If you have, then good for you. Obviously, you'll stand out from the pool of other applicants. But in general, people haven't published by the time that they apply to a PhD program. I think that a lot of people will be with whom you'll be competing because of the nature of PhD programs in the US will be coming out straight of undergrad. So, they won't have this opportunity. And so it is a key, it could be a factor that could play very well for you. So I don't know what your situation is, but any type of publication can look good. If you have something that's in the process of being published or something that you think that you could be submitting for publication and you have time to do it and it doesn't impact your application, I'd say go for it. Really do it. Having something submitted will definitely make an impression on admissions committees. But if you don't have time and you're busy, and in my own kind of way of looking at this is that your all focus should be on your application and not anything else. At this moment in time, there's no time to waste. You need to work on that. Yeah, well, if you don't have any publications, don't. It's fine. Nobody's expecting you to have publications. I mean, I was hired as an assistant professor at UNC Chapel Hill on the tenure track with no publications. I had a publication when I was a PhD student. It was internal, et cetera, et cetera. It played no role whatsoever in me getting hired as a faculty member. So you can draw your own conclusions in terms of how they look at this from the perspective of a PhD program. Lakshmi, I am pursuing my final year of Bachelor in Technology in Computer Science in India. I have a good GPA so far, but my research experience is limited. What are my admissions prospects for a direct PhD? Listen, again, you might have missed what I was talking about before, but if you are able to clearly outline what you'd like to explore, if you take the time to present and to share your research interests in a convincing manner to admissions committees, and that you're able to demonstrate in one way, shape, or form throughout your undergraduate studies of your interest in the subject. And if you're able to get good letters of recommendations of professors that can attest to your skills, analytical skill, critical thinking skills, if you've done papers in the context of your studies, I would go for it. Just apply. It's going to be really, in your case, just finishing your bachelor's, the statement of purpose and the letters of recommendations and your GPA are going to be really carrying a lot of weight there. But yeah, I've seen people get admitted into programs. One thing that you could do too, Lakshmi, and I say that to a lot of people who apply to PhDs, a lot of PhDs in the US include a master's degrees embedded. So you take more classes, for a longer period of time. And in the meantime, you kind of get your unofficial master's as you progress to the PhD. That is one of the reasons why you could apply. You could also apply to a straight up master's program that could give you the edge of getting this research. In your case, when I work with people who are at the bachelor's level or whatever, that's the approach I suggest. So we go for PhDs, but we also look at master's programs that could be a good backup. Not as lost. You will just be fast-tracked in your PhD program if you come in with a master's degree. And in this particular case, your lack of research or your limited research experience would carry have much less impact on your application that if you were applying to a PhD. So I would go for PhDs, but I would also consider master's degrees. You cannot find my website. Yeah, the website is www.admit-lab.com. If you click on any of my other videos, you will see the link to my website if you want to get that. So it's www.admit-lab.com. Some schools have a publication section in the application, which is optional to fill out. But does that mean school like this penalize you for not having publication? No, they don't. I mean, Minail, I don't think they don't. They do. Again, if you have the opportunity to have some publications, it's good, but it is not the main criteria of getting admitted. So that should not be the goal at this point in time for you to do this. As I told you, in academia, publications come once you're done with a PhD, and they start to matter once you're a faculty member. I mean, before that, you can have them. It can look really good, and it's highly encouraged that you get them as you progress in your PhD program. But it's not a requirement at all. But again, it never hurts to have something. So, I mean, one thing in terms of strategies, if you have time, if you have something, it doesn't have to be in a peer-reviewed journal. So a blog could count. I mean, it's a wide, there's a wide array of you to kind of publish if you want to, but yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I've never had anybody, and we've never rejected, and I was a professor for like 10 years. We never even considered an applicant and go, oh, they don't have a publication, like, at all. So don't worry about that. Victor, hello. What's the best way to demonstrate research experience? Is it a best way to demonstrate research based on the challenge I faced during my undergraduate research, and I solved it? Yeah. Okay. So research experience can be done two ways. I mean, one thing to keep in mind, in the eyes of admissions committees, some of these people have never worked a day of their life outside of university. So obviously, any type of research that you have engaged in a strictly academic setting is a plus for you. So if you were, if you did some research during your undergraduate research, your honors thesis, for example, that's definitely what I would talk about to demonstrate that you have these skills in your statement of purpose, for example. Not everybody has extensive research experience in an academic setting. There's other ways that you can demonstrate these skills depending on where you are and what is your situation. But I definitely, I would talk about the research you did at the undergraduate level. Okay, next questions. I have a publication, good, but I'm not able to project it well while writing a cold email. What should I do? Okay, so my big question for you was, why are you writing a cold email? Are cold emails required? And yeah, Tanmay, not sure I understand your question. I'm not able to project it well while writing a cold email. I mean, one thing that you could do if you're writing a cold email to a professor is you could simply attach it. I usually suggest attach your CV or resume and then try to look for a conversation. You shouldn't have to write. One thing that's going to be very appreciated from anybody you contact in a cold manner, in a cold way. Don't write a long thing. I would say, listen, here's my CV. Here's my resume. I'm interested in your program. I wonder if you have time to talk. and then schedule a Zoom, and then you'll be able to talk personally. In my opinion, this is the best way than writing long, drawn emails. Unfortunately, as professors, we read a lot, and we do appreciate sometimes like things that are clear and concise. So you might not have to go into describing or providing an in-depth summary of your publication. How many pages would I recommend an SOP to have if the school doesn't specify? Again, okay, so that goes back into what I was saying, as short as possible. And by as short, I mean 500 words would be like a nightmare. Like you can't say anything. But I would say 1 page, 1,000, 1,200 words is a good number. When I work with people on their statement of purpose, that's my number. I'm like, it gives you enough time to talk about what you've done, clearly outline your research, and then justify your choice of a school. So I would say 1,000 words for me is a magic number. But you definitely don't want 2 pages. So it's like a page and a half if you really have to. I wouldn't go beyond that, because then, yeah, that means that, admissions committees are also evaluating your ability to be concise and to be rigorous in the way you present information. If you ramble for like 4 pages, that's not working for you. Okay, let me see. I think I missed a question here. Next question. Whoops, can I do this? Okay, let me see this. Okay. I'm applying to public health PhD programs. Some of them ask for a brief essay of quantitative skills and experience. What is expected in that section? Yeah, they want to know which courses you have taken, and they want you to provide them with a clear insight of your quant skills. That's really important. If that is required, it's about listing the courses, relevant courses that you've taken. And then in addition to that, if you have had experience work-wise deploying these skills, you should clearly outline them there. God. Yeah, really important. But again, this section is going to be your section of the application. So I wouldn't spend too much time in terms of, wording it properly or whatever. They're just looking for specific insight into your skills in the event that you might not have the requirements, but you've done work professionally that involved a lot of quant skills. So yeah. I would expect to outline clearly what you have done and what skills you possess. Other questions, what professors are expecting in Ivy League colleges, or some tips that you can give us for insights where we can improve? Ivy League colleges, obviously, I mean, I would say that the expectations in terms of professors is the same for all programs, whether it's a state school or Harvard. They're basically looking for all the same things. They want to see evidence that you are passionate about research, that you have a clear idea, and by clear idea, it's about what interests you. It could be very broad, and so they want to show this. Maybe one thing that's probably a bit more that they're a bit more nitpicky about in Ivy League programs, or in programs that are, considered one of the top programs in their field, is that unfortunately they do see a lot of people who apply to these programs just for the name. So a lot of people, they just, they apply to a PhD at Princeton because they want to go, they tell their friends that they went to Princeton or Yale or Harvard or whatever, but they don't really have a clear idea of what the program is all about. And so when you receive a ton of applicants, you will automatically discard people who are being very general about their choice of this specific program. So for example, if you're at a top program out of an Ivy League, you need to demonstrate to admissions committees that you're not just applying because it's Harvard. So you want to go into the curriculum, activities, professors' research centers, et cetera, et cetera. They will discard, because they have a lot of applications, they have the luxury of discarding people who are just looking for, vanity programs for vanity. Other question here I have, when given a space to write at least an optional essay outside the SOP, what do you think is best to include? It reads, tells us anything you would like us to know, is 3-point good plus research experience. Yeah, usually the optional essay is for people who have profile that might not fit in with your typical profile of an applicant. It's usually you usually use this optional essay to justify certain things that might not be very common in applications. So it could be about a bad semester where you only got Fs because your mother died. I mean, it could be more personal. You might have been ill for a while, and you weren't able to. That impacted your GPA. Yeah, so you usually use this optional essay to kind of explain to them what's happening either in your CV and usually around your CV or your grades, to kind of give them a bit more insight of what might have influenced this gap or this in your profile. Other question here, should statement of purpose also discuss the methods and sources you will use for your research, or should you only demonstrate that you can ask relevant questions at this stage? Yeah, Minahil, that's a really good question. I really think it depends on the person. It depends on your background. Some people know from the get-go, what they'd like to work on specifically. They know the scholarship really well, and they're like, this is the guy, that this is the type of research that will influence the way I look at this text or at this question. So a lot of people have this. So if you have this, I would go for it, because obviously it makes a case that you're somebody that's sure in the way they want to approach it. It's going to depend on your situation. If you don't, you want to at least be able to position yourself in light of current debates around this topic. So you want to do that, but you don't necessarily have to have like definite sources or methods. I usually suggest, if you can, to at least, show admissions committees that you're able to position yourself in light of what's being done right now. It is October. Minail, you have time to do it. Sometimes it's about reading quick literature reviews. When I work with people with statements of purpose, they've been out of school for a while, or they're not sure. That's usually the way we do. We kind of look at existing literature so that they're able to kind of tell admissions committees that they know already what's in existence in types of scholarship. So that's one thing that you could do to demonstrate that. You have time to do it. It's a great way to make a strong impact. And again, it doesn't have to be super nitty-gritty. So, a lot of people apply without that. Adibimpe Caleb, hello, Dr. Barr. How many pages would you suggest that an academic CV for a PhD application have? As long as it needs to be. It could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages, it could be, the good thing with CVs is they can be as long as you want. Academia have a tendency to love thick CVs. So obviously you don't want to list things that are irrelevant to them, but if it's longer than 1 page, it's a good thing. If they're requiring, in this case, in none of these cases, you guys are required to produce a resume. Usually a resume, I say 1 page, but a CV, it can be as long as or as short as it could be. I have Nikki Hinks. I have 2 topics I uploaded on the Medium. Can this count as a publication? It doesn't directly relate to the PhD program. Yes, Nikki. So you've published stuff on Medium, which is an informal blog that I'm very familiar with. They are not expecting you to upload to send, at a peer-reviewed journal, an article, but anything that you've published on Medium, I would list it, because that shows that you actually took the time to write something, to reread it, to publish it, to do. Yes, anything goes. Publish or perish is the. Although it is not needed at this time of your career, if you have anything, list it. So Nikki, I would list your publication, even if it doesn't relate. You're gonna score extra points with that. Other one, I have done a 4-month group project, one independent project for only 1 month, and you have an MSc dissertation project for 3 months. Is it sufficient to convey my research experience? Answer, yes. You're good. You're good. Just the MSc dissertation should be sufficient. Your group project and your 1-month project that's independent, you can talk about in your CV. I would talk about my dissertation in my statement of purpose. 3 months is long enough. As long as you've done it, I would definitely use this experience. Oh, good question, Miss. What is the ideal font size for the SOP? 11 is perfect. That's the way if you stick to 11, it's good. I wouldn't go lower than 11. 11 or 12 is a good number, but don't go lower than 11. Don't pack all your text too in one block. Provide some space between paragraphs. You want there's something subconscious that happens when we read applications and the person has done like a great presentation of their text. 11 would work, and then I would provide blank spaces to kind of let your reader breathe. Brooke, my research experience is limited to graduate research proposal and dissertation. I am working as a clinician, but now I want to change my career to academia. What advice do I have for you? Graduate research proposal and dissertation, that's sufficient research experience. In the eyes of a PhD admissions committee, if you've done, any type of research in an academic setting, it could be an honors thesis or a master's thesis, that's enough. That's enough for them to demonstrate you were able to complete it. You hopefully had a good grade for it. You'll have the letter of your director, et cetera, et cetera. You can use this as evidence of your research skills. You're working as a clinician. Yeah, so there's probably ways for you to tweak your resume to kind of put emphasis on anything that's research related to, or your CV, to outline this research experience. But yeah, if you have, that counts. That's sufficient. Some people do take a break between their master's and their PhD. I sure did, and I got in everywhere. So, I mean, if you worked, I worked not even in academia between my master's and my PhD, and I got full rides everywhere. So do not worry. Pythonic Algorithmic Hub. I have a BS GPA of 2.9 and a current master's of 7.1. Am I eligible for a PhD program, considering universities may be flexible with GPA? If my SOP, LOR, and research experience are strong, yes. So your master's GPA is 7.1. I mean, I'm not familiar with the ranking there. One thing they're gonna take a look at in your GPA is in what you got this GPA. So, a 3.1 in engineering is really good compared to a 3.1 in history, right? So they'll take that into consideration. In general, don't worry too much about your undergraduate GPA. They will focus on your most recent academic experience. And so the one that counts is the most recent. So if you got a great GPA in your master's, you should be good to go. Again, they are flexible with GPA, as you said. Your SOP is going to matter, your letters of recommendation, your research experience, et cetera, et cetera. So the GPA, I mean, I know it's annoying to hear that they took a look at everything, but they really do. So nobody has the real same type of profile, so they look at everything. But yeah, don't worry too much about the undergraduate. If you were able to make it up at the graduate level, you're fine. Before applying to PhD application, I wanted to get a review of my application. To whom should I approach and modify my application on the basis of this review? I mean, I'm not sure I understand your question, Tanmay. You want to apply to a PhD and ask admissions committees to take a look at it first? If that's the case, that's very uncommon. That would be strange. Yeah, let me know if that's what you meant. Case Crochet, hi, Dr. Barr. Thank you so much for your insightful videos. You're welcome. Can a blog post count as a publication? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I do guest writing for blogs and websites. Yes, yes, yes. This is great. Can I list on my CV? Yes, list everything. It will work. Yeah, simple answer. After mailing a professor, they are saying to apply through the portal and see you in interview if shortlisted. Is this a positive response? No. They do have, I mean, they want people to apply to their program, so it's important to understand the politics a little. Sometimes people will invite you to apply to their PhD programs. I wouldn't see that as a commitment that they will take you. They want you to apply in their, in their mind, you're a competitive applicant, but they're going to make a decision once they looked at everybody. And so, yeah, I would apply other places and not take that as a commitment because we never know what happens. Mr. Udoji, must, or Madame Udoji, must the SOP always start with a story? Or can it begin with a problem statement and just go forward, just take your interest in the program? Yeah, please, no stories. No, it's academia. They don't care. No, 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 no. So if any of you have stories, get rid of them. Like, they don't care. It should be, you should make people cry. You shouldn't talk about your parents. They don't want to know anything. And then, if there's anything for you to share about your experience, it's going to be in your CV. So make sure that you list this experience there. But your statement of purpose is all about business. It's all about research. And so be straightforward as possible. I've seen people on YouTube that are like, you should have a hook. You don't need a hook. Who cares? I mean, we used to read applications. People don't want a hook. It's weird. As you say, if you want to talk about your problem statement, if you would want to talk about your interests, you want to talk about your past research, talk about research. Don't talk about anything else. Other question, does adding a certification to the CV a plus also? I have one certification and it's the TEFL, Teaching English. Yeah. Yeah, Nikki, I would add this to your CV. Education is, and I will stay tuned because I've planned to record an entire video this Wednesday on CVs for PhDs. So make sure that you check it out. I'll go into detail of all the different cases, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the education section is obviously your undergrad and everything you've done in an academic setting. You can also list anything that you've done outside of the strictly academic setting. So, certifications that you've done, even in some cases, taking classes online can matter, can show your interest and your intellectual curiosity, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, list that. I definitely would. Okay, Pythonic Algorithmic Hub. During my master's, I developed applications using algorithms. And for the past year, I've been working as a researcher. Will this experience be beneficial? Yes, 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 yes. I don't know for which program you're applying to, but yeah, that looks really great. You obviously want to translate that as clearly as possible in your CV, but yes, that works well. How many PhD applications are recommended? Franklin, I would say it's between 5 and 7, I think is a good number, because you basically will send, pretty much the same information to everybody. Obviously, you'll have to tweak your SOP for each school, but it's fairly easy, especially if you're starting to work on this now. And again, as I've stated at the beginning of this video, you need to start working full-time on this now. 2 months is nothing. It does take time to have the best application possible, so you want to get working on this as soon as possible. Yeah, 5 to 7 is a good number. Some people apply to 10, but I mean, it's difficult to find. Is there really 10 schools that fit what you want to do? Really close, that aligns closely with what you'd like to do? If that's your case, go for it. But I feel that usually 5 or 7 is a manageable number. And again, applying to many programs is always good because you can use an offer to get more money from another. You can be savvy now there, and when you get your acceptance, you can pretty much, if it's possible, you can get more money from a program if you got into another and they really want you. So apply to as many programs as possible, considering that it's hard to tell what's really happening behind closed doors at PhD programs. Does my undergraduate project defense count as oral presentation? Oh, that's a good question. Uh, no, no. I mean, it's part of the exam. I mean, yeah, no. I would not list it as a presentation. It's part of the exam. Does evaluating my transcript with NASA's, even though the USC doesn't require it, an advantage? No. If you don't require it, no. It's a waste of time. Hi, Dr. Barr. Is it sane to reapply to the program I got rejected from after the first round of interviews last year's? I love their research. If yes, should I opt to work with the same professors? After the first round of interviews, that's a good question, Beta. Uh, you can reapply and get in. There's no doubt about this, to the same program. We don't know. I mean, I don't know if you got any feedback on the reasons why you did not get in, for the program. Um, you might have gotten rejected for something that had nothing to do with your interview. So it's a big question. I would need to kind of see a bit more about your background to give you a good decision, a good information there. But I would say, I would reapply, but I would apply at other schools because I don't know. Is it? That's a good question. I would need more information about your experience there. Should we apply to the varsity blindly or must get a positive response from the prof? If it's not required, go blindly. Just go. Just apply. If you want to do something, so one thing that I'd like to stress to everyone, um, if it is not required for you to talk to a professor, you can send emails if you want. But the best option for you is to contact students. You want to talk with current PhD students and not professors if it's not required. First of all, it's easier. You'll hear back from them, especially if there's like a PhD student association. They'll be happy to give you information about the program. They'll tell you really what's happening behind closed doors, which professors really are careful about sharing with you. And it can really make a radical difference on your application because you will demonstrate that you are serious about the program. I had a question earlier about Ivy League programs, right? I said be specific about Ivy League programs because they see a lot of applications, and if it sounds like you just want a Harvard T-shirt, that's not a good reason enough. They'll discard you. If you're applying to a Ivy League program that's really popular and competitive, having spoken with students will demonstrate that you're really serious about this program. Unfortunately, nobody does this, and this works every time. So if you want to score extra points, don't talk to faculty members, talk to students, and refer to these conversations either in your interview and in your statement of purpose. That's in my key. This is like the key way to stand out from other applicants. So if it's not needed, move along. You'll talk to professors. The unwritten rule is that professors contact you once you're admitted. What does applying to 2 different programs within the same department tell the admissions committees? Ooh, does it show commitment concerns or lack of focus? 2 different programs within the same department. I mean, it does sound a little strange. Um, It would have to do with your background. So I'm curious to know about your background. It might make sense in your case to do it. I mean, I don't think that you would, if it makes sense that you're applying to these two programs, go for it. If it's connected with your experience, what you want to do, et cetera, go for it. It makes sense to you. You're able to demonstrate that. If you're just trying to apply for other reasons than that, then I don't know. Like, obviously, it could hurt you. It's a good question. I would need to know more about your background to give you a good answer there. Okay, Okube Solomon. Oh my God, I have so many questions. Okay. Um, what if I took an online course, but I did not receive a certificate? Can I still add it in my CV? Yes, add it. It counts. It shows intellectual curiosity at best. You're good. If it's not a if it's a requirement course, then it won't count. So if you don't have a certificate and it's not credit bearing, and you're required to have a specific class, then it won't count. But if you want to add it to demonstrate that you've done some work on your own, yes. Oh yeah, the PhD in computer science in AI. Yeah, it makes sense in this case. Okay. Origami, the program requires a writing sample for the application. What do you think makes a good writing sample? What should I include if they're accepting dissertation separately? Oh yeah. Um, I mean, if you have a dissertation, this is like a no-brainer. This is what I would send. There's different ways of sending things. I think it's a personal decision on your end. You know, a good I'm going to give you an answer that is not an answer because there's many options. But the introduction of your dissertation is a good way. If it's strong, it's a good way to give them an idea of what you worked on. The conclusion could be a really good choice, depending on the number of pages that they request, or your favorite chapter. I mean, like your strongest, what you think is the strongest part of your dissertation, I would send, um, depending on the number of pages that's required. I usually suggest, yeah, either one chapter that you think is your strongest or the beginning or the end is usually a good choice. They are looking for evidence of your ability to write in an academic setting. They'll be judging the way you write, the way you present your ideas, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah. Should I apply to MIT, Stanford, or Harvard with a current of 7 out of 10? Strong levels of, yeah, MIT, Stanford, or Harvard. Like, I mean, I haven't seen your background there, but you're kind of aiming high. These are extremely competitive programs, especially MIT, especially Stanford and Harvard. So I would have to see your background to kind of give you an insight there on where you stand from a competitive level, because they look at the school you come from, etc., the letters, their statement of purpose, um, work as a developer. Yeah, I would definitely listen. If you're considering these schools, I would consider other schools because you're like aiming really high there. Yeah, MSc in biotech, 6 years of research experience, five published articles. Yeah, I would say you're in a good position to apply to a PhD program. That looks really good. For every cold email, well, I've talked about cold emails, so if they're not needed, just move forward. If they are needed, just send your CV. That's enough. They won't read your statement of purpose. Should I apply to a PhD in computer science at UW Seattle as an international student? I read somewhere that they give preference to international students, in-state students. You Washington, Seattle. No, that shouldn't, like, yeah, I've never heard anything about, I've worked on applications on Seattle. I've never heard of such a thing that they give preference to in-state students. I would apply. I have 6 years, 12 semester professional doctorate. Will the admissions committee view my GPA same as they do for 4-year programs? 12 professional doctorate. Well, the GPA, Emmanuel, the GPA is never something really fixed, so they're going to take that into consideration, obviously, and they will look at where you got good grades, whether you got, you know, less interesting grades, etc., etc. They will take that into consideration definitely, and as they look at your application. I received a reply from a professor I'm interested to work with. He said I should demonstrate research experience and I should seek for strong recommendation and encourage me to apply. Is it a good reply? Well, Victor, it's kind of a non-descriptive reply. Of course, right? Like he's telling you, yeah, apply. But again, don't put all your eggs in the same basket, as they say. You should consider a wide variety of programs. And an invitation to apply is no way, shape, or form a confirmation that you're getting. How can you convert, Jennifer? Last question. I'm running over here. Last question. How can I convert my undergraduate project to a writing sample? There's no real way to convert it, Jennifer, as long as it's presented clearly, and that it's, yeah, there's no real, they will take any type. Some people send, I remember reading research papers for classes. And so any type of writing sample will count. It doesn't necessarily need to be formatted unless they really mentioned that before. How important, last question. Okay, if you have last minute questions, I am giving you guys another 4 minutes, then I need to log off. Okay, so how important are publication if I am not the first author? Important. Again, publish or perish. So list it if you are. Don't omit it. Really important. I would definitely list it in my CV. Did I miss any question? Any last minute questions, people? No? Okay, so we're on time. Well, listen, thank you for joining this little Q&A here on PhD applications. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Nikki, re-ask your question. If you want me to answer it, I can answer it right now. Yeah, hopefully this is going to be helpful to you. Again, my answers are, only based on what you're giving me right now in terms of questions. Obviously, you are all aware of this, but it's the application process includes many different pieces. And so without having all these pieces in front of me, it's difficult for me to give you like a clear assessment of where you are in terms of your application. If you are interested in getting like more granular feedback on your application, check out my website. I offer a free 15-minute consultation. Obviously, this is leading. If you want help with your application, really feel free to sign up. I can take a look at your things and then tell you, which are the best ways for us to come up with the perfect application to make sure that you get in or not. So really feel free to sign up for this free consultation. You can have access to it either in the description box of this video, if I'm not mistaken, or other of my videos, or just go to my website, Admit Lab, so www.admit-lab.com. And I'm more than happy to talk to you one-on-one to give you a better assessment. Okay, last minute question. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad that you guys found all this helpful. Yeah, okay, so let's wrap this up. Again, feel free to sign up for something that's more one-on-one. I hope that this was helpful. I hope I answered all your questions to the best of my knowledge. I know it's stressful. The key reminder, start working. Don't waste any time. It needs to be now. I worked with tons of people who don't get in, and it's always because they started too late. So you need to be starting right now. It takes a lot of time, especially your statement of purpose. So hopefully this was helpful again, and I will see you in the next one. And if you have any questions, you're watching this video once it has been live, so the recording of this video, and you have questions, feel free to ask away in the descriptions box. I do answer questions as much as I can as they come along, so feel free to ask questions. Bye.